Years ago, when Elias Ward was still a young engineer working on a small frontier station, he never imagined that a simple moment of kindness would follow him for the rest of his life. At that time, he was only 20, full of nervous energy and trying his best to learn how to repair old machines that were older than he was. The frontier station was not famous or important. It was small, quiet, and far from the busy planets. Many humans worked there only for a short time before moving to better jobs. Elias thought he would do the same. He thought his stay would be forgettable, just like many others who passed through. But something happened there that stayed with him. Something he joked about, laughed about, and then forgot completely, never knowing that someone else did not forget. One warm afternoon, the station shook from a small power overload. A walkway in one of the garden wings collapsed. People ran everywhere, trying to help and check if anyone was hurt. Elias heard a strange, sharp cry echoing through the hall. It was unlike anything he had heard from a human. It was soft, musical, almost like a frightened song. He followed the sound and found a little alien girl sitting at the edge of the collapsed walkway. She was tiny, glowing gently like a night star with silver blue eyes full of fear. She was an Ilari child, no older than 7 by human comparison. She sat trapped between fallen beams, hugging her knees, shaking as dust floated around her. Elias did not even think before acting. He jumped over the broken metal, crawled between the beams, and slowly lifted her into his arms. She was light, so light that he could barely feel her weight. Her skin felt warm and soft like sunlight. She did not speak at first. She only hid her face against his chest as he carried her away from the danger. "Don't worry," he said softly, trying to calm her. "You're safe. I've got you." She made a soft sound like a sigh and clung to his work uniform. Her glowing fingertips left faint trails of light on the fabric. Elias thought she looked like a small star trying not to fall apart. To distract her from fear, he tried to joke. He had no idea why this thought came to his mind, but sometimes humans say things without thinking too much. "When you grow up," he said lightly, "if you ever need someone to protect you again, I'll marry you. Then you'll never have to be scared." He expected her to ignore the joke or not understand it, but the little alien looked up at him with wide, curious eyes. She repeated the unfamiliar human word slowly, like tasting it. "Rai?" "Yeah, Mary," he said, smiling awkwardly. "It means you join someone's life. They look after you, you look after them. It was just a joke, little star. Don't worry about it." But the girl did not treat it like a joke. She placed her tiny glowing hand on his chest and whispered something in her own language, soft, melodic, and serious. He did not understand the words, but her tone made him pause. She held on to him even tighter, as if his joke had become something very real in her world. Elias carried her back to her people, who thanked him warmly. They bowed, touched their hands to their hearts, and promised to record the rescue so the child would remember she had been saved by a human. Elias did not think much of it. People helped each other all the time on frontier stations. He believed she would forget everything once she grew up. That was the day he first met Sarai, and the day he believed he would never hear about her again. Years passed. Elias finished his training, moved from job to job, and finally settled as a mechanic on a quiet moon, where he repaired survey drones and mining crawlers. The moon had only a few workers, few visitors, and a calm routine. He woke up early, fixed machines, drank bad coffee, watched stars, and sometimes wondered why his life felt empty even though nothing was wrong. He never thought about the Ilari girl again. His days were simple, predictable, and quiet. But far away on her homeworld, Sarai did not forget. Ilari culture treated vows made during moments of rescue as sacred. The child who was saved would forever carry the promise in her heart. The one who gave the vow was considered a future guardian, partner, or life bond. When Sarai grew older and began her training as a diplomat, she asked her elders about the human who saved her. She learned his name, learned about Earth, learned about humans, and always carried the promise inside her. While others thought she was foolish to believe in something said as a joke, she believed that a vow made during fear and rescue had meaning. She remembered his arms carrying her. She remembered his voice telling her she would never have to be scared. She remembered the word marry, even though she never fully understood its human meaning. Now, after many years, Elias lived alone in his small workshop on the moon. He was repairing a broken survey drone as always. The metal shell was open, The wiring was giving him trouble and his hands were covered in grease. He muttered to himself about faulty old machines and how they never cooperated. The room smelled of warm metal and engine oil. Outside his workshop door, the wind of the barren moon surface brushed softly against the steel walls. He was reaching for a tool when he heard something unusual. Soft, almost silent footsteps behind him. He had not heard the door open. No one visited him without calling first. He turned around quickly, expecting a worker from the nearby outpost or maybe a supervisor. Instead, he froze. A young woman stood just inside the workshop. She was tall, graceful, and glowing softly with familiar silver-blue light. Her hair shimmered like threads of starlight. Her eyes, Elias recognized those eyes immediately, even though he had seen them only once many years ago. He stared at her, confused and speechless. She looked older now, almost human age, but she still carried the same gentle glow, the same calm, soft presence. Her hands were folded in front of her, and her expression was peaceful but determined. "Elias Ward," she said in a soft but clear voice. "I have come to claim the promise." Elias blinked. He looked at her uniform, her symbols, her glowing skin. He had no idea what promise she was talking about. Then she stepped closer and repeated the exact words he said during her rescue, word for word, even repeating the nickname he gave her. "Little Star. Don't worry. When you grow up, I'll marry you." Elias felt all the air leave his lungs. His heart started beating fast, not with fear but with shock and disbelief. He covered his face with his hands for a moment and let out a shaky laugh. "Oh no," he whispered. "You're that kid? You're the little star?" She nodded gently. "My name is Sarai. I have grown and I have come as you promised." Elias stood speechless. He had no idea how to explain that it was only a joke, something he said to comfort a scared child. But when he met her eyes again, he saw something he never expected. She believed in that promise. Not foolishly, not blindly. She believed because her culture valued such moments deeply. She carried his words for years. She crossed the stars because of them. Before he could say anything else, a soft alarm beeped from his console. His moon sensors detected incoming ships. Unregistered, unknown, too fast to be friendly. Sarai's glowing eyes turned toward the screen. Her voice lowered. "I am being hunted," she said quietly. "They followed me." And in that moment, the past returned to Elias sharply. The little alien girl he once saved was standing in his workshop again, grown, glowing, and in danger. And he realized something that made his chest tighten. This time, he could not walk away from the promise. Not even if he tried. Elias stood completely still as the alarm continued to beep on the console. Red lights flashed along the wall, and the screen showed 3 fast-moving ships entering the moon's airspace. He felt a cold wave of worry wash over him. The moon was quiet, far from any trade routes. No one ever came here without sending a message first, and certainly no one arrived with ships that moved like predators. Sarai watched the screen with a calm face, but her shoulders tightened slightly, giving away her tension. Elias turned to her, his voice low. "Who are they?" Sarai breathed in slowly, as if deciding how much truth to reveal. "They belong to a power that wants to control my people. They believe our abilities should be used for their war. I refuse them. I left my world to seek the promise you made to me. Because that promise also creates a lawful bond. They cannot take someone under a human vow without risking conflict. But I think they do not care about law anymore." Elias rubbed the back of his neck, trying to understand everything at once. "So they want to force you? Take you back?" Her soft glow flickered. "Yes. And if they succeed, my people will lose their freedom." Elias muttered a quiet curse under his breath. Nothing harsh, just the kind of frustrated sound a tired mechanic makes when a machine breaks for the 10th time. He looked again at the screen. The ships were drawing closer, now only minutes away. He motioned toward the workshop door. "We need to move. This place isn't built for visitors with guns." He led her quickly to the back of the workshop. There was a small underground bunker used during dust storms. He had reinforced it over the years, adding extra steel panels and a heavy, secure door. He never thought he would need it for anything like this. Sarai followed him silently, her steps light and graceful. Her presence filled the tight workshop with a soft, gentle glow. Elias wasn't sure if it was her natural light or something else, something like trust. They reached the bunker entrance. Elias opened the hatch and motioned her inside. "You first." Sarai climbed down with surprising ease, her movement almost weightless. Elias followed her and sealed the hatch above them. The bunker lights flickered on, revealing a small room with tools, water, emergency rations, and a communication link to the surface. Elias checked the scanner. The enemy ships had landed near his workshop. Dust clouds rose around them as their engines cooled. Elias could almost imagine the soldiers stepping out, scanning the area, looking for any sign of Sarai. Sarai watched him closely. "I brought danger to your home." Elias shook his head. "Not your fault. You did what you had to do." She lowered her eyes. "I came because of the vow. Your words gave me hope that I would not face this alone." Elias felt a strange guilt twist in his chest. He had been so young when he made that joke. He never thought it meant anything. But for her, it guided her whole life. She believed in it with complete seriousness. He sat down opposite her, his voice softer. "Sarai, I didn't know the promise meant so much in your culture." She nodded. "Among my people, a vow made during rescue becomes a bond of trust. It becomes a path for the future. And you followed that path all the way here?" "Yes," she said quietly. "I trained for years to prepare myself. I studied human ways, human laws, human languages. I wanted to be someone worthy of the promise you made." Elias blinked, stunned. He never imagined someone crossing the galaxy because of something he said without thinking. It felt unreal. It felt heavy. But it also made him feel something warm, a sense that he mattered to someone in a way he had never expected. A sudden thundering sound shook the bunker slightly. Elias checked the console. The enemy ships were searching the area. Heat signatures, energy pulses. They were scanning everything. "They're looking for you," he said. Sarai folded her hands tightly. "They may destroy your workshop if they believe I am hiding." "They are not gentle." Elias let out a long breath, trying to steady himself. "Let them try. This isn't the first time trouble came looking for me." He stood, grabbed a small device, and began adjusting its settings. Sarai watched curiously. "What is that?" she asked. "Old mining drones," he said. "I can activate them remotely. They're not weapons, but they can distract anyone who tries to break in, and maybe block their sensors." Sarai tilted her head slightly. "You think quickly. I remember that about you." Elias stopped what he was doing and looked at her. "You remember me?" "Of course," she answered with calm honesty. "Your voice, your arms carrying me, the warmth of your promise. I remembered everything." Elias swallowed hard. Her words made something shift inside him. The idea that he had been part of her memory for so long. It felt strangely meaningful. He activated the drones. Immediately, the screen showed 3 small mining robots rolling from their storage area, spreading out across the moon's surface. They released bursts of dust and metal fragments, confusing the sensors of the intruders. Outside, the enemy soldiers began shouting commands. Elias could not hear their words, but he recognized the aggressive movement patterns on the scanner. Sarai placed her hand gently on his arm, her glow steady. "I am sorry you must face this danger because of me." He shook his head. "I'm not leaving you to them. You came all this way. I'm not throwing you back." A small smile touched her lips. "Humans are known for such strength of heart. It is why my people respect yours." Elias checked the viewer again. The soldiers were advancing, scanning the ground, heading toward the workshop doors. He could hear faint metal impacts from above, the sound of them forcing their way inside. "We need backup," Elias said. He moved to the communication console and began entering a distress code. It was a code used only during life-threatening emergencies. He hoped someone on the nearest relay station would hear it. Sarai stood beside him, her glow now brighter as if reacting to stress. "Will your people answer quickly?" "If they hear the signal, yes," he said. "Humans don't ignore distress calls." "Not anymore." The ground trembled again. A loud crash echoed from above and dust fell from the ceiling. "They're inside the workshop," Elias whispered. Sarai closed her eyes, breathing slowly. Her calm was surprising. She seemed to trust him completely. "We must hold until help arrives," she said softly. "I will not let them harm you either." Elias almost laughed at that. "They want you." "Not me. Anyone who helps me is their enemy," she replied. "So you are now part of this conflict." He exhaled through tight lips. Figures. More noises echoed from above, footsteps, voices, metal tearing. The soldiers were searching room by room. They would find the bunker hatch soon. Elias tightened his fists, wishing he had better defenses. Suddenly, the communication console flashed. A signal. Not a full response, but an acknowledgement. "They heard us," Elias said with relief. Rescue ships are on the way. Sarai let out a soft breath. Thank you. But before they could relax, a loud bang shook the bunker hatch. Someone had found it. Elias grabbed a heavy metal bar, one of his tools, but he knew it wouldn't stop trained soldiers. The hatch shook again. Dust drifted down. Elias stepped in front of Sarai without thinking, placing himself between her and the danger. She stared at his back, her expression softening with something deeper than gratitude. Something like recognition. He had once carried her away from danger. Now he was standing between her and the threat again. Elias whispered, "Stay behind me. If anything happens, use the emergency tunnel. It leads to the communication tower." Sarai touched his shoulder lightly. "I will not leave you." Before Elias could argue, the hatch dented inward. The metal groaned under the force of the soldiers, trying to break through, but then another sound cut through the chaos, a distant roar from the sky. Engines. Powerful. Engines. Elias looked at the scanner. New ships were entering the moon's atmosphere. Large, fast, and unmistakably human. "They're here," he said with a breath of hope. The ground shook not from enemy force, but from the thunder of arriving human rescue vessels. Sarai whispered, "Your people came for us." Elias nodded, heart pounding. "Yeah, they always do." The bunker lights flickered as the sky above turned bright with the arrival of help. And just like many years ago, Elias felt the weight of responsibility. Only this time, he was not carrying a frightened child. He was standing beside someone who crossed the stars to find him. The ground above the bunker shook again, but this time it was not from enemy footsteps. The sound was different, heavier, sharper, filled with the deep roar of powerful engines dropping through the atmosphere. The human rescue ships arrived fast, faster than Elias expected. Their engines cut through the thin air of the moon and echoed across the metal walls of the bunker. Elias checked the scanner. 3 human vessels were descending rapidly, their lights glowing bright blue against the dusty sky. The enemy soldiers outside seemed to notice too. Their movements on the scanner changed. They were no longer searching calmly. They were running back toward their ships, rushing into defensive positions. Sarai watched the screen with wide, glowing eyes. "Your people came quickly." Elias nodded, a mix of relief and worry swirling inside him. "They did, but this might turn into a real fight." Sarai lowered her head slightly. "I did not want war to follow me here." Elias placed a hand on her shoulder, surprising himself with how natural the motion felt. "Hey, you came here for help, and humans don't ignore someone who needs protection, especially not someone who traveled across the stars believing in a promise." She looked up at him, her glow soft and grateful. "You honor your vow more strongly than you know." He wanted to answer, but the bunker shook again, this time from the shock waves of human ships landing nearby. Dust fell from the ceiling in small clouds. Elias grabbed Sarai's hand gently but firmly. "Come on, they'll come straight for the bunker once they secure the surface." He led her closer to the console, watching the scanner carefully. The human ships landed in a triangle formation around the intruders. Their doors opened and armored soldiers stepped out, spreading into defensive positions. These were not simple moon workers. They wore full tactical suits, each marked with the insignia of Earth Fleet. The enemy soldiers tried to retreat toward their ships, but the humans were faster. Light pulses and warning shots filled the moon's surface. The scanner showed sudden flashes of motion, quick, sharp, controlled. The human soldiers didn't need to fight long before the intruders began falling back. A loud metallic impact hit the ground above the bunker. Elias smiled slightly. "That sound means the human squad found our workshop." Sarai touched her fingers to the wall as if feeling the vibrations. "Your people are strong, trained." "You're not wrong," Elias said. "Earth doesn't play around when one of ours sends a distress code." Sarai tilted her head. "And they came because you asked?" "Yes," Elias said slowly. "But also because a human doesn't abandon someone who trusted them." Sarai took a slow breath. "In that case, I am glad I came." Another deeper thud shook the bunker, closer, louder. The hatch above them rattled. "That doesn't sound like the intruders," Elias said with a hint of amusement. "Humans don't knock gently." A moment later, a coded tapping pattern hit the hatch. Elias's eyes lit up. "That's Earth Fleet signal. They found us." Sarai stepped back slightly as Elias climbed the ladder and unlocked the hatch. The door swung open with a metallic groan, and a bright beam of light shone down into the bunker. A soldier in heavy armor leaned in. His helmet visor reflected the bunker's light. Elias Ward? You sent the distress code? Yes, Elias called back. We're both okay. Understood. Bring the LRE representative with you. Command wants her protected immediately. Elias helped Sarai climb the ladder. The soldier reached down with a steady hand and assisted her. As soon as Sarai emerged, her soft glow lit up the dusty workshop remains around them. The soldier paused for a moment, staring respectfully. Ma'am, he said, bowing slightly. Welcome under human protection. Sarai answered with a gentle nod. Thank you for coming. The soldier guided them both out of the ruined workshop. The sky above was filled with blue trails from the rescue ships. Dust still floated through the air, stirred by the engines. Several soldiers were securing the area, while others surrounded the enemy ships, forcing the intruders to kneel with their hands behind their heads. Elias took in the scene. The moon's surface, usually quiet and empty, now looked like the center of a large military operation. Human soldiers moved with careful precision. Their weapons were raised but controlled. Their voices were calm and steady. Sarai stood beside Elias, watching everything with wide, thoughtful eyes. She seemed amazed, not by the soldiers, but by the way the humans acted as a unified force, stepping forward to protect someone they had never met. The commanding officer approached them. He was a tall man with silver hair, wearing a long tactical coat that carried the emblem of Earth Fleet High Response. His voice was steady, calm, and full of authority. I'm Commander Hale, he said. We received your distress signal and responded immediately. Elias nodded. Thank you, sir. These intruders came after her. Hale turned his attention to Sarai, bowing respectfully. Elari emissary, you are now under the protection of the human fleet. No one will harm you. Sarai bowed in return, her glow shimmering. I am honored by your protection. Hale nodded once. We were informed of potential threats to your people. Your arrival here confirms it. We will not allow anyone to take you by force. Sarai placed a hand gently over her heart. I am grateful. Hale then faced Elias. You did well calling for help. If you hadn't activated the distress code, this situation could have ended badly. Elias shrugged slightly. Couldn't let them take her. Hale gave Elias a long, knowing look. No, I don't think you could. Sarai looked between them, then stepped closer to Elias. He has honored his vow. I never doubted him. Hale raised an eyebrow but didn't ask. Instead, he gestured for them to follow him toward the central ship. As they walked, Sarai stayed close to Elias. Her soft glow made a faint halo around them. Elias felt strangely protective, as if the years between their first meeting and now had tightened into a single moment. They passed the captured intruders. The enemy soldiers stared at Sarai with cold, frustrated eyes. She lowered her gaze, trying not to meet them. Elias noticed her discomfort and gently moved closer, placing himself slightly between her and their line of sight. Sarai whispered, They will not stop easily. I know, Elias said quietly, but they're going to have a harder time now. When they reached the main rescue ship, Hale led them inside. The doors sealed behind them with a firm click, shutting out the cold moon air. The interior was bright and organized, filled with soft humming from advanced engines. Sarai looked around with wonder. Your ships are so strong, so alive, built to protect, Hale said simply. He guided them into a briefing room with large screens and a smooth glass table. Sarai sat first, her glowing presence reflected on the surface. Elias sat beside her, feeling oddly out of place but staying because she seemed calmer with him near. Hale stood at the head of the table. We need to understand the full situation. Why are they chasing you? And why did you come here, to this particular human? Sarai turned to Elias, then back to Hale. Because of a vow. Hale looked confused. A vow? Elias rubbed his forehead. A long story, sir, Sarai continued gently. When I was a child, Elias saved my life. In that moment, he made a promise. In my culture, a vow spoken during rescue binds two fates. I held that vow for many years. I believed one day I would find him again. Hale looked at Elias with a mixture of surprise and amusement. And you didn't know the meaning of the vow? No idea, Elias admitted. Sarai smiled faintly. But he honored it today. Hale exhaled slowly. Well, humans have always been good at stepping into promises even when they don't mean to. The ship trembled as engines prepared for flight. Hale glanced at a message on his wrist device. We're taking off. We'll move you both to a safe location and then discuss how to secure the Ilari alliance. Sarai turned to Elias, her voice soft. Thank you for standing with me. Elias looked at her, unsure how to express what he felt. You came all this way because you trusted me. I wasn't going to let you face them alone. Sarai's glow brightened slightly like a soft smile made of light. Outside, the ship lifted from the moon's surface, carrying them toward safety. But inside the ship, something else had begun. Something between a human who once made a careless promise and the alien girl who carried that promise across the stars. They were no longer strangers linked by an old joke. They were partners in something bigger, something neither of them fully understood yet. But whatever came next, they would face it together. The rescue ship rose higher and higher, leaving the dusty moon far below. Elias watched the surface shrink through the small window beside him, and for the first time since Sarai arrived, he allowed himself to breathe fully. The danger was not gone, but the worst had passed. The human fleet was strong, organized, and fully awake now. No enemy would dare attack openly while Earth ships guarded the sky. Sarai sat next to him, her soft glow steady once more. She looked calmer, though her eyes still carried the weight of what happened. Elias noticed how she held her hands folded in her lap, almost as if she was afraid to move too suddenly in this new environment. He gently nudged her with his elbow. You doing okay? She looked up at him with a faint, gentle smile. I am safe. That is enough for now. Good, he said softly, though inside, he felt something deeper, a kind of relief he had trouble describing. Commander Hale entered the room again, his boots making soft thuds on the metal floor. His expression was serious, but there was no anger or frustration in his eyes, only focus. We're headed to a secure station near the outer rim, he said. You'll both be safe there while we send diplomats to speak with the Ilari Council about your situation. Sarai bowed her head respectfully. Thank you, Commander. Hale nodded. Then he looked at Elias. You'll need to give a full report. Ward, everything you saw, everything she told you, every detail of the intruder's actions. I understand, Elias answered. Hale studied him for a moment. You've done more than expected of a mechanic. Not everyone would have stood in front of armed intruders for someone they barely knew. Elias glanced at Sarai before replying. I wasn't about to let them take her. Hale nodded slowly as if he already knew Elias would say that. Good. We need people like that. When Hale left, the hum of the ship surrounded them once more. Sarai turned slightly toward Elias. You thought I barely knew you, she said softly. But I knew you much more than you think. Elias looked surprised. How could you know me? You were just a kid. When someone saves your life as a child, she answered gently. Their face stays in your memory forever. Their voice, their warmth, their kindness. These things grow inside you. Elias didn't know what to say to that. He stared at the metal floor for a moment, feeling both humbled and overwhelmed. He had never thought of himself as someone who changed lives. He was just a mechanic, someone who fixed things and tried to stay out of trouble. But to Sarai, he had been something else entirely. Before he could respond, the ship jolted slightly as it entered warp travel. The window view blurred into streaks of blue and white light. Sarai leaned closer to see it, her eyes wide. It is beautiful, she whispered. Never gets old, Elias said. Even for people who see it every day. She placed her palm lightly on the window. My people do not travel at such speeds. We move using light currents, softer and slower. This feels powerful. Elias chuckled softly. I said humans don't do anything quietly. Her smile grew, warm and full of gentle admiration. That is why I believed you would protect me. They sat in silence for a moment, watching the colors dance outside. Then Sarai spoke again. There is something I must tell you. Something important. Elias turned to her quickly. What is it? She took a slow breath, her glow dimming slightly like a thoughtful lantern. The vow you made years ago. In my culture, it does more than promise protection. It creates a link, a life bond, a promise that you will stand beside the one you saved when the time comes. Elias nodded slowly. Okay, and now that time came. Yes, she said. And you answered. Elias leaned back in his chair, trying to understand the full meaning. Does that bond mean anything else? Sarai lowered her eyes. It can mean many things, friendship, alliance, trust, or something deeper. If both hearts accept it. Elias's throat tightened slightly. He had never expected something like this. But hearing her say it made his chest feel warm in a way he had not felt in years. The ship's lights dimmed as they entered rest mode. Sarai looked tired, the glow around her softening like a small flame. "You should rest," Elias said gently. "And you?" she asked. He smiled. "I'll rest too. It's been a long day." They sat quietly until her breathing grew softer, deeper, and her glow shifted to a warm, steady silver. Elias did not sleep. He watched her, thinking about everything that had happened. How a simple childhood moment had returned after so many years, changing his life completely. Hours passed and the ship finally slowed. Commander Hale's voice sounded through the speakers. "We are approaching Station Argos. Prepare for landing." Sarai awoke slowly, blinking her silver blue eyes. Elias offered her a reassuring smile, and she returned it with gentle calm. When the doors opened, they stepped out into a huge spaceport filled with bright lights and tall windows, showing distant stars. Station Argos was one of the safest human stations, known for advanced security and high diplomatic presence. The air smelled clean and cool, and soft voices echoed through the halls. A group of human diplomats waited for them. They greeted Sarai with respectful bows, welcoming her under human protection. Sarai responded with equal grace, her glow shimmering like moonlight. Elias walked beside her as they were escorted through the station. Many humans stared at Sarai with curiosity but not fear. Ilari were peaceful beings and their gentle light intrigued people. Elias noticed how she moved carefully, trying not to draw too much attention, but she also did not hide behind him. She walked proudly like someone who accepted her path. When they reached a quiet room prepared for her, Sarai turned to Elias. "Will you stay close?" she asked softly. "I'm not going anywhere," he replied. She smiled, a bright, honest smile that made her glow even warmer. "Then I will feel safe." They entered the room. It was simple but comfortable, with a large window showing the stars outside. Sarai walked to the window immediately, placing her hand against the glass. "When I was young," she said softly, "I dreamed of traveling the stars to find you. My elders said it was foolish. They said humans forget easily, but I held your promise like a light inside me." Elias stepped closer. "Sarai, I never meant to leave you alone. I just didn't know." "I know," she said gently, "but you still kept the vow when the moment came. That is what matters." She turned to him, her eyes bright with something deeper and more emotional than he expected. "The vow can be renewed," she said quietly, "but only if both choose it. Only if both feel the connection in their hearts." Elias met her gaze. He felt no fear, no doubt. He felt a strange sense of belonging, like he had known her longer than one afternoon on a broken walkway. Like his life had been waiting for this moment without knowing it. He stepped closer, his voice soft and steady. "Then I renew it." Sarai's glow blossomed warmly, filling the room with soft light. She placed her hand over his heart, the same place she touched all those years ago as a child. This time her touch felt gentle but full of meaning. "Then our bond continues," she whispered. Outside the window, the stars shone brighter and Station Argos drifted silently through space. And in that quiet moment, Elias realized something simple but powerful. The joke he once made had turned into the most important promise of his life.